my channel. If you're new here, my name is Allison. I'm 28 years old and I live in Pennsylvania. I post a lot of content about lifestyle, productivity, goals, and finance, which is what we're talking about today. I really like posting videos about how I budget my paycheck. I started out posting these videos on TikTok and they do really well. Either one, because people feel like they have suggestions on how I should be budgeting my paycheck. Also, I think people just like seeing it and it's interesting to them because I feel like a lot of people, like, money's such a taboo topic that not a lot of people get like taught how to budget. I find it helpful and I find it interesting to watch other people, and I enjoy making this content myself. Today we are going to do another how I budget my paycheck video, so let's get started. Honestly, I'm going to start this out by saying that I don't use anything special. Like, a lot of people ask me if I use like an Excel template or anything like that. I truly don't. Like, I literally use the Notes app on my phone and that is pretty much it. I have this all planned out for like the next year based on what my fixed expenses are and like things like that. So I'll insert a little screenshot of that and kind of show you guys how I break it down in my budget. Starting out, like, I'm an hourly employee, so my paycheck does vary just slightly because I can get overtime. I sort of know what I'm gonna make every 2 weeks, but I usually, like, when I'm planning my budget, I do it like a little bit under. I usually plan for like my income being $2,300, and it's usually like somewhere between there and like maybe $2,080, so I give that little bit of like wiggle room while I'm planning my budget. This pay period, my income was $2,331, and I had $70 left in my checking account from last pay period, which is not that much. That's been more than what I normally have left in my checking account because I'm actively trying really hard not to spend any extra money. The first thing I always save for, and I always say this, is rent. How me and my fiance do it is I pay for the rent and he pays for the utilities pretty much. But that's how our system works right now because he has a lot more student loans than I do, and I also make a little bit more money than he does, which I know people have a lot of opinions on that, but that's just what works for us. What I typically do is save each paycheck in January. I'll save the money that I need for February's rent. And I break it between two paychecks because, like, I just don't want to take out $850 from one paycheck. So normally my first paycheck of the month is $400 and my second paycheck is $450. So this is the second paycheck of the month, so I saved $450 towards our rent. The next thing that I have to save for is school. I am going back to get my master's degree in healthcare administration, paying for it like all out of pocket so that I don't have to take any loans, because I'm grateful that I'm in that position that I can do that. To do that, like, how I come up with this number was like, I knew I needed a certain amount of money for my bills due May 1st. However many paychecks between like December and May to save the amount of money that I need for my tuition. That comes out to $300 per paycheck. Is my last tuition payment, thank God. What is it? February, March, and April are the last 3 months that I need to save for school, and then that money can go towards my debt or even towards saving for a house, which is what we want. I wait to pay for the tuition. That sits in a high yield savings account with like my emergency fund and my house fund and all that stuff, so that it's gaining at least some interest while it's sitting in there. The next thing is, I feel like people have a lot to say about this because I do have debt right now, which I definitely understand, like, not saving money while you're trying to pay off debt, but at the same time, save for your goals. And I do have like a plan to pay them off by the end of the year while also saving money. So this just is a plan that works for me. Again, everybody's different and everybody's priorities are different. We still want to be saving for a house, like, while we're trying to pay off our debt. But I know not everybody feels like agrees with this, but it's just what we're doing. So I did end up putting $100 towards our house fund, and that also sits in that same high yield savings account. Next, we have a separate account for groceries. We've recently started doing this where We both just have, it's like just a regular checking account, and we both put money in there every paycheck. We just use that debit card for groceries or anything we need for like around the house, and it's been really helpful because we're currently in the process of like trying to figure out how we're gonna combine our finances, or like if we're gonna fully combine them. It's just, I feel like it's really hard to combine everything, especially when you're still trying to pay off debt. This has been super helpful for us, where we have one account that we're using for groceries or anything that we need for the house, and we're not still like, all right, you pay for this week and I'll pay for that next week, and like it just seems like silly. But this honestly has worked great for us, just to have everything, like that money in a separate account, and we know that we can use that for that. Also have a separate account for our wedding like fund. Our wedding is in June and it's coming up really, really fast, and weddings are crazy expensive. Again, we kind of took a look at what everything's gonna cost and how much each pay period we could put towards it to like be where we want to be and feel comfortable not going into debt for our wedding, but still like having a nice wedding. Each week we both put money into this joint account that we have, which is also a high yield savings account, so that it can grow interest while we're leaving it there to pay for things. I put away $250 into that account specifically for wedding related things. I highly suggest doing this if you're going to be planning a wedding, because it's a nice thing to have, and being like prepared, making sure you have the money, and just like a good way to like plan for these like expenses like venue and flowers and all this stuff. Like once the wedding's over, I am hoping that, I feel like what we'll do is end up putting a little bit less into that account so that we can use that money to again like help pay off our debt a little bit faster. I do think we will both probably still put a little bit of money into this account, and that can also be used for like our house fund and everything. Like that's money that's just, it's nice to like put that money in that account and kind of like forget about it, but it will also be nice to not put as much into that account and again use it to help pay off my debt a little bit faster. Next thing I do is kind of look at what bills or like subscriptions or anything that is going to come out during these next 2 weeks. First thing is our internet. Again, I do pay for probably more of the things for the house, like the rent and this. And it's just what works for us, and he pays like the heat, the water, and the electric, I believe. My internet bill is like roughly $56, which is not bad. So that will come out, and then any other like small subscriptions. So these 2 weeks, it's my Hulu, which is $7.99, and my Aura Ring subscription, which is $6.35, and Netflix is $15.49. So all of that comes to roughly like $30. I always tend to round up a little bit to like even numbers so that I'm not like short anywhere on anything. For my pets, I have 2 cats, 2 crazy cats, need food and cat litter. It was use the Amazon Subscribe and Save, which I think saves me money. Honestly, not really sure, but either way, it's nice just to have that stuff like sent to my door every like 2 to 3 weeks. These 2 weeks, the only thing getting sent to us is 2 containers of cat litter, which comes to $35. Next is another like big expense, which kind of sucks and you just gotta pay for it, is car insurance. Yay! So I pay $186 a month for car insurance, which is honestly insane. Basically my goal every paycheck until after the wedding and after I'm done paying for school is to put $100 towards my student loans, so approximately like $200 a month. And hopefully like once I'm done paying for school, some of that can just get used towards my loans, which would be nice and help pay that off faster. So I did pay $100 towards my student loan, so my student loan total right now is $7,600, which is not that bad. I realize that I'm pretty privileged to have that little bit of student loans. When I first graduated, my total was I think around 19,500 for my student loans, and then that first year I really I paid so much to my student loans, and then I kind of I wish I didn't. I sat with my loans at like 10,000 for maybe like a year during like forbearance because of that whole thing with like Biden maybe forgiving $10,000 of student loans, which never happened. And then I was hoping to put more towards our honeymoon, but I only put $50 towards our honeymoon. It's already booked and everything. I just make payments to it every like couple weeks, like every paycheck. Then the last thing was, unfortunately, like I wanted to put more towards my like credit card debt right now. It always happens like this, like when it rains it pours kind of situation, or like when you feel like you're getting on the right track, like all these things pop up and it's like super frustrating. So this year I've also made it a goal to like get my health in order and like do all my routine like appointments, like eye doctor, dentist, like all that stuff. But that comes with like a price because I really did need to go to the eye doctor, but like the eye doctor itself wasn't expensive, but I knew I was getting new glasses because mine are literally 10 years old and I can't see out of them. So I did need new glasses, which was $120, and then I also am gonna need contacts in March, I believe. It's gonna be, I think, $500, but that's for the whole year. I usually get like a year's supply so that I'm not worried about it, and it's usually a little bit cheaper if you buy like the year's worth. But again, when I think about that, I'm like, okay, what I normally would do is like not plan for that expense, and like come March I'd be like, oh my god, I need contacts, and then really have to put it on my credit card and spend like $550 on contacts. And as now, like where I'm at now, when I'm like, oh, I need that in 2 months, I can plan for it now and be like, okay, well, I'll put a little bit less towards my credit card debt, but I also will save for these things that I know are expenses that are coming up, and just be a little bit more like proactive about my expenses. That's what I'm trying at least to teach myself to do, so I'm not like relying on putting huge expenses like that on my credit card. But anyway, that whole spiel was just to say that I did technically put $400 onto my credit card, but it didn't bring my balance down any lower than where it was. Basically, I wanted to put $400 towards my like credit card debt. Instead, I used that money towards things like my glasses and saving for contacts and saving for a car registration that I have to pay. I'm happy with where I'm at, but I was hoping to like bring my debt balance down a little bit more, but all of that together comes to $2,055. Leaves me with roughly $345 for 2 weeks. Typically, I would like that to be a little bit higher, just like I feel like it's better to have a little bit extra in your checking account just for anything that comes up. I'm really trying not to spend any extra money, so it should, like, that number should get me through 2 weeks if I'm not spending any money. And like we have our grocery budget separate and anything for the wedding separate, so that amount of money should be enough to get me through, and extra, like if I'm really trying not to spend any extra money. So out of that $345, I budget $160 for gas, which is a lot for 2 weeks, but I drive pretty far for work, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. So if you take the $160 away, then that leaves me with like $185 for 2 weeks. So if you think about it, it's really like my budget for each week is like $90, and I shouldn't be spending any more than, like, I shouldn't even probably be spending the $90. But essentially what I really want is to not use that money and have that carry over to the next paycheck, and then or I can like use that towards my debt as well. Say for some reason I have $185 to use for 2 weeks. Say some reason I spend $85. Then I have $100 left over from this 2 weeks that I can put towards my credit card or student loans or whatever. So that's really the goal and like the motivation to stop like spending unnecessary money, is like that money that I'm not spending could go towards my debt and help me reach my goals faster. Easier said than done, but I believe that I can do it, and if I really do, like, that could be an extra like $2,000 every year, or not every year, well, this year, that I can put towards like my debt. That is my paycheck breakdown. Again, I enjoy making these videos because I feel like I was someone who, my parents were actually really good with their money and are like decently well off at this moment, but they're boomers and they never told me how to be smart with my money. Like, I got like the generic, like, always save your money and don't put everything on a credit card, and like just like basic stuff, but they didn't tell me like the nitty-gritty of stuff, or like how to budget. Making these videos to like help other people figure out where they're at and like how they should budget. Not that my budget's gonna look different than yours, than other people's, like everyone's is gonna look different, but that's like the beauty of it, and kind of what makes it, like, makes finances like fun and interesting. And I enjoy like the transparency of like the finance social media bubble. Like, I enjoy seeing what everyone else does and makes, and it's just very interesting to me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video.